Welcome to our presentation today on the digital side of risk. So today we're going to be grounding our conversation in research and recommendations from the 2023 Economist Impact Risk Reset Studies. Before we dive in, we just wanted to take a brief moment to introduce your presenters today. So I'm Michelle Doyle. I'm the Director of Product Marketing for Digital Solutions at Iron Mountain. And I'm joined by my colleague, Sue Trombley. Sue, do you want to introduce yourself and give some background on the research?
Sure, yes. Thank you very much for inviting me, Michelle. Again, my name's Sue Trombley, and I'm Managing Director of Thought Leadership at Iron Mountain, and was really very much involved in the research that we're going to be covering with you next. So let's talk about the background of the research, please. So over the past 3 years, organizations have learned firsthand lessons about business risk. They've maneuvered through a worldwide pandemic that's really altered the way we work from now on. They've dealt with international conflicts that continue to create disruptions in supply chain. They've weathered storms and fires and other natural disasters that resulted in outages and financial losses. And they've defended their digital systems from barrages of cyber attacks. All the while, they've strategized ways to deal with worker shortages and rising inflation. So many things that are stressors to their business. So these experiences have changed the way organizations view risk. And to find out exactly how executives' attitudes towards risk management is changing, Iron Mountain sponsored a global study conducted by Economist Impact, which is the research arm of The Economist magazine. The firm conducted research in 2023 to understand how executives perceive the key internal and external factors shaping an organization's approach to risk and the role that executives, technology, and an institutional setup play in risk management. The Economist Impact team surveyed 656 executives in 4 regions across the globe. They also consulted with risk management experts at the World Economic Forum, the Clearinghouse, and the Wharton School of Business. And the resulting research that's titled Risk Reset, Shifting Focus from Reaction to Anticipation, delves into 4 key areas of risk management: workplace evolution, cybersecurity and data governance, sustainability, and operational efficiency. So during this session, we're going to take a closer look at the interplay between technology and these 4 focus areas. We'll examine 4 essential findings that shed light on how the digital landscape is affecting risk perception and management. And we'll also look at a handful of recommendations resulting from the research. So the 4 key technology findings, it's really interesting that one of the most significant findings from the research is that 90% of the executives said that they're now more than ever identifying risks as a priority. So let's begin by exploring the risk that's related specifically to digital and technology. First and foremost, our finding is 80% of executives said that technology now offers their greatest risk as well as their greatest opportunity. So a real double-edged sword here. In its analysis of the survey data, The Economist Impact wrote, emerging digital technologies such as machine learning and AI promise to expand the risk manager's toolkit, spotting patterns in data that human analysts might miss. However, attackers also have access to these technologies, which could be used to find vulnerabilities or launch more persuasive phishing attacks. So, Michelle, how should or do organizations balance their understanding of this relationship and what it means for digital technology and risk management?
Yeah, Sue, it's a great question. And in many ways, if you think about it, the threat of cyber attacks is really one of the most real and pervasive threats organizations face today. Just to give a sense of the magnitude, the scope of this challenge, the U.S. Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI, received over 800,000 cyber crime complaints in 2022 alone. And that comes with total reported losses of more than $10.3 billion. If you're seeing the news, or you may have experienced in your own working lives, most large organizations repel cyber attacks on a daily basis. And we see that those attacks are becoming increasingly sophisticated, especially as nation states become more involved. And it's really, organizations know it's not just their own systems that they need to protect. Increasingly, companies are relying on third-party software and services, and that opens organizations to additional risk. Sue mentioned that Economist Impact interviewed several risk management leaders. Simeon Fishman is one of them. He's the executive vice president and chief risk officer at the Clearinghouse. He said that only a few vendors provide cloud services, which has the potential of resulting in cloud concentration. A tech-centric organization, through the software they use or develop, may unwittingly put all their eggs in one or just a few baskets. So it sounds dire, it is dire, it's a huge threat, but I think we all know intuitively and from the data that the solution isn't to avoid technology altogether. Rather the opposite. If you fail to capitalize on emerging digital trends and technology, you're really exposing your company to a different kind of risk. And that's the risk of falling behind the competition, which really no organization can afford in today's economy. And also on the flip side of the coin, if you think about it, there are many types of technology that can actually help companies mitigate certain kinds of risk. Some examples are backup and disaster recovery services, cloud storage, cybersecurity software, data analytics, and other tools that can really help organizations be better prepared for adverse events that are inevitably going to happen, potentially preventing downtime and data loss. And as organizations work to create their risk management strategy, they really need to remember that digital technology, like Sue said, is a double-sided coin. It's both a risk and it can also be a mitigation tool. Sue, if you could take us through the second key finding.
Sure, let's talk about risk indicators. So as we know, indicators can be both quantitative or qualitative or both. And these are signals that allow organizations to assess their risk level. And our survey asked executives to indicate whether these indicators from a variety of categories had become more or less important over the last 3 years, where there was so much upset. And across the board, an overwhelming majority of the respondents said that each of the featured categories, those are reputational, operational, environmental, technology, and workforce, had become more important. And reputational indicators, which include things like media coverage or customer complaints, social media sentiment, they showed the strongest change in importance over the past 3 years, with 80% of the executives saying this category has become far more important. And there's nothing worse than having bad press in order to damage reputation. But those technology indicators scored very high as well, with 76% of the respondents saying this category is more important than ever. So Michelle, can you give us some examples of what organizations are using as those technology risk indicators?
Yeah, definitely. So technology risk indicators can include metrics that the IT team at your organization is probably already tracking, right? So the number of cybersecurity incidents, network uptime, total software bugs, mean time to resolution. That's more on the quantitative side. They can also use, like Sue said, more qualitative metrics that might arise out of proactive risk management efforts. Some examples could be the percentage of key roles in your organization that you have a succession plan for, or you might assess the effectiveness of your current IT risk management procedures. But regardless of the indicators that organizations are using, the fact that executives are paying more attention to these indicators at all is a really positive sign, because it shows that leaders are really becoming more aware of how critical technology is to the business. And it also shows that digital transformation and the efforts that have been happening for the last number of years are really having a widespread impact, with the organization becoming more and more dependent on technology than ever before. So if you could take us through the third finding.
Sure, absolutely. And as we learn from the research, 43% of executives expect to focus their efforts to improve risk management over the next 3 years. So really shifting money to either identify or mitigate risk. So Michelle, while we've listed quite a few examples of worrying items here for executives, can you address a few that may be most top of mind?
Absolutely. Yeah. And we've already touched on cybersecurity, but just to drill down a little bit more into that one, that can include things like malware, ransomware, phishing attacks, denial of service, hacking attempts, and other types of cybercrime that could really expose sensitive information, can result in downtime, and it also could result in higher costs for the organization. So that one is hugely top of mind. I've seen several studies that show that is really the top IT initiative in many global organizations. Another one I'd like to point out from this list is obsolete technology. So we know that technology is changing rapidly every day. We hear about the latest technology all the time, but there are organizations that are still relying on out-of-date technology, and that can pose its own risk in operational challenges that you might face relying on that obsolete technology, or also, again, expenses associated with upgrading that technology when you inevitably need to do so. And then the last technology risk I wanted to point out on this list, Sue, is data loss. So we've talked about data loss that could result from a cyber attack, but even if you don't experience a cyber attack, you can lose data in a number of ways: theft, hardware or software failure, natural disasters, and other causes. So why are these risks that you see here driving improvement efforts more than others? I think the answer might relate back to the idea that Sue shared at the beginning, that technology, risk, and opportunity go hand in hand. Organizations are seeing that they can address many of these types of technological risks by actually implementing technology to mitigate against that risk. And that new technology also then offers opportunities to improve operations.
It's definitely an exciting time, Michelle. No doubt.
Absolutely.
And with certainly that the cyber risk is just so huge. It doesn't matter what size organization you may be in. It's just pervasive and
Exactly.
really requires that intentional understanding of how best to mitigate it and avoid it in your specific organization. So
Absolutely.
let's talk about the next finding. And that is related, of course, in large part to artificial intelligence. We can't really escape that topic at any moment in our lives today. So the research highlighted two significant tools that organizations rely on to improve their risk management. And that is AI, artificial intelligence, as well as data analytics. So right now, again, the interest in AI, particularly generative AI and large language models, it's so very high. So it's not surprising that more than 8 out of 10 executives said that they're currently using AI and cognitive technology in their risk management processes, and they continue to do so going forward. Similarly, 80% of the participants said that they are using data analytics in risk management pretty much most of the time as well. So that also gives a sense of a high interest in analytics across all disciplines and all industries as well. Both AI and analytics help organizations find those patterns in their data. And if they can see those circumstances when difficulties have arisen in the past, they might be better able to spot similar situations in the future, or maybe find something that they hadn't even been aware of, that unknown. So, Michelle, I know we have to be cautious about depending entirely on technologies to mitigate risk, but what are our thoughts about that?
Yes, definitely. It's not so black and white. It's not a cure-all. While AI, analytics, and other advanced digital technologies can, of course, be helpful, they aren't a complete solution in themselves. So again, I'll go to Fishman, one of our risk management experts, and you can see on the screen, he quotes, "Technology can only get you so far," right? If you don't have the right design, risk architecture, or data within your systems. He also went on to say it's critical to understand how business processes and data are connected. So once the design and data are in place, analytics and data interrogation tools can be leveraged to form a more comprehensive understanding of risk in an organization. And it's really that comprehensive understanding that Fishman talks about. That's what's really key. But it's also one of the biggest areas where organizations have room for improvement when it comes to digital aspects of their risk management.
And one of the things we always say, Michelle, particularly in our line of business, is the data has to be accurate and authentic for it even to be relevant and adequate for analysis and use in AI. So, I mean, that's a whole other element of governance that is so connected, as you say, with the whole concept of understanding risk in an organization.
Definitely.
So we've got a lot of items on this slide, Michelle, and there are many ways, obviously, that organizations are working to continue to mitigate risk related to digital. And all of these are very closely ranked. There's not one that really pops out over the other. So can you address a couple that we see as being probably, most important, or at least important enough?
Sure. Yeah. And I'll take the first one, right? Disaster recovery and business continuity plans for digital systems. It tops the list, although, as you point out, Sue, they are all closely aligned. But especially when, like we've been talking about, when we continue to see not only cyber attacks, but also storms, fires, other natural disasters bringing outages and financial losses, having a disaster recovery, a business continuity plan in place for your digital systems that many organizations really rely on as the core to their organization is it can't be stated how important that is. The other one I'd like to point out on this list is cleanup of legacy, both physical and digital documents, files, and data. So organizations are increasingly seeing the need for strong information governance, right? So that includes having an up-to-date records retention schedule that's actually enforced. One of Sue and my colleagues from the past always used to say, they can't hack what you don't have, right? So making sure that you're keeping data for as long as you need it for business, regulatory, legal obligations, or reasons.
And no longer.
And no longer, exactly.
Right. And also the whole concept of data minimization. I mean, don't create more than you really have to, because once it's out there, it's all vulnerable. So, just that again, that continued awareness of get rid of what you don't need. And if you do need to keep it, anonymize it if you're putting it into a data lake or using it for AI. So many things to think about with so many stakeholders across the organization as well.
Exactly. Yep.
Let's look at some of the key recommendations next, Michelle, particularly those that came out in the research related to digital and technology risk. So the first one, and we're just going to kind of tag team this, we'll go back and forth, but so the research has shown us that it's easy to fall into this trap of seeing risk mitigation and operational efficiency as mutually exclusive goals. In fact, 65% of the executives that we surveyed agreed that investing in long-term risk management has an impact on operations negatively in the short term. We learned that when we asked them about resilience as well, that balance. But in reality, organizations often report that they're able to both manage their risk and accomplish their business goals at the same time. More than that, many find that good risk management helps them achieve their other objectives. So there's a real strategic way of regarding this investment in risk versus operation. In fact, 41% of respondents said that their risk management activities had a significant positive impact on their operational efficiency. And similarly, 41% observed improved strategic decision-making and reported improvements in facilities and workspace planning, which we know is so top of mind now as a result of the pandemic and work from home and hybrid working, all of those situations that are just part of our everyday concerns. So our recommendation is that instead of viewing risk management as a trade-off against innovation and efficiency. You look for ways to use technology to improve your risk management that can also enhance innovation and efficiency. And we think that this approach should enable you to focus efforts on those areas that provide the greatest benefit to your organization. For example, tools like workflow automation can reduce risk by preventing human error while also streamlining your operations. Michelle, you want to take number 2?
I will, thank you. So our second recommendation is really around looking for ways to improve collaboration. One of the strongest findings in the Economist Impact Report is the need for organizations to improve their collaboration capabilities. The executives who participated in the study clearly understood that cross-functional collaboration is critical to risk management success. In fact, more than 3/4 of those surveyed, 77%, agreed that risk management should really consider all parts of the organization. But the respondents also acknowledged they aren't doing as well in this area as they should be. More than half, 57%, said their organization needs to improve cross-functional collaboration, and 60% said they need to improve employee engagement and information sharing among functions, teams, and external partners. In the report, another risk management expert, Sophie Heading, who leads global risk at the World Economic Forum, told us that collaboration can be particularly important when unforeseen outside events threaten their organization. She said external factors really exert a significant impact on organizations and necessitate cross-collaboration to address them.
And Michelle, I think most everyone listening to this will acknowledge that the last 3 years have really shown that risk isn't just the domain of one group,
Right.
but rather it permeates everywhere across the organization at all levels, and it's really taken leaps of collaboration to get through so much of what we experienced as a result of COVID. So I think this collaborative topic can't be stressed enough, really, and it only spells success when you've got more people involved to solve problems and anticipate problems as well.
Exactly. It's not just in the office of risk that this is a challenge. It's really getting all parts of the organization on board and working together. Totally.
It is. And in some instances, organizations are creating committees, steering committees, risk committees, or at least connecting themselves up with other committees to just, again, make sure that all the voices are being heard.
Definitely.
So our third recommendation is, while organizations are making investments in talent and tooling, as we've been talking about, to improve their risk management capabilities, the research indicated that they likely should be doing more. A large majority, 62% of the executives, said that their organization needs to be better at proactively dedicating sufficient financial, technological, and human resources to risk management. In particular, digital initiatives seem to be an area where respondents believe they should allocate more funds, which makes sense because they could help find risk and reduce risk and improve efficiencies. Over half of the respondents plan to invest more over the next 3 years in risk management practices that directly align with their dependence on digital. So that's good news. This study also revealed that investment in 2 areas critical to risk management seems to have declined, which is the bad news. Only 28% of the survey respondents reported purchasing technology or digital tools to facilitate that cross-functional data information exchange since 2022. And that's disconcerting, given that executives indicate they want to encourage more of that cross-functional collaboration that we just talked about and examined. And similarly, only 29% have spent money since 2020 on cloud-based technology or digital tools to improve workflow automation and business processes. Because automation can't help reduce manual errors in process, this also seems like a number that's trending in the wrong direction. Michelle, over to you.
All right. So our fourth recommendation is really on focusing on resilience. So we've talked a lot about risk management, but risk management and resilience are closely related. They are slightly different. We think about risk management, it really requires organizations to identify possible risks and then take steps to reduce the risk. Resilience, on the other hand, places the emphasis more on recovering quickly from adverse events, particularly when they're unanticipated. And while risk management pays a lot of attention to negatives, what are all the things that could go wrong? Resilience turns attention to the positive. What can you do about the challenges that arise? Our own Chief Information Security Officer at Iron Mountain, Larry Jarvis, explained to us that resilience helps organizations not just survive, but thrive in the midst of difficult circumstances. He said, by building resilience against potential future threats, rather than merely responding to familiar ones, organizations are capable of adapting to unforeseen risks and seizing emergent opportunities. So no matter how adequate your risk management capabilities are, your organization will eventually face hard times. But by developing that resilience alongside your risk management expertise, you really put your organization in a good position to weather the storms that are inevitably going to arise.
Following on from what we were just talking about, risk and resilience, the turmoil of the past few years, it's made it more apparent than ever that our world is highly interconnected, and challenges in one industry or one part of the world ripple through the economy in very little time. And we're seeing that in the news every day. We're living that in our lives every day. So we need to be more aware of risk, obviously, and we have to become more resilient as we learn more about risk. One important aspect of managing risk is to seek out partners that they themselves have strong risk management capabilities. In the digital world particularly, you need to know that your vendors, your suppliers, and your partners are doing everything they can to avoid downtime or other events that could affect your operations. So with strong partners, your organization becomes stronger. And we can't emphasize this enough. In fact, for more than 70 years, Iron Mountain has empowered our customers worldwide to mitigate their risks. We've helped thousands of organizations find ways to use technology to improve their risk management, build resilience, and also improve their operational efficiencies. So I encourage you, please, to read the Economist Impact report. We have a report, we have an infographic that gives you a quick picture of the findings, and really see how that relates to your own organizations. So Michelle, I'm now going to turn it over to you.
Thanks, Sue. Yeah, just a little bit more about Iron Mountain. Sue already teed us off. We have been in the business of helping customers bridge that gap between physical and digital records and information management for decades, as Sue said. We've worked with more than 225,000 organizations around the world in over 50 countries to come up with better, easier, and more efficient ways to use technology, both, like Sue said at the very beginning, to capitalize on opportunities for improved efficiency while also mitigating risk. And as Sue said as well, we don't do it alone. We have our own partners. One such example is AWS. We partner with leading technology providers to offer you digital solutions to address some of the challenges we covered in today's presentation. And risk management and resilience is, again, always top of mind. We collaborate to help you securely access and store your information, find what you need when you need it, automate your workflows for improved collaboration, and ultimately unlock insights with our unified content management solutions. So as Sue mentioned, we hope you enjoyed today's presentation. We wanted to leave you with some key resources you can explore. We have a paper, as Sue mentioned, on the very topic we discussed today, the digital side of risk. It is a slice of the larger Economist Impact Risk Reset study that we've also included the link for. We have a whole website dedicated to help you in making risk management a reality for your organization, with resources on how to build risk awareness and strengthen resilience. And lastly, don't take our word for it. We encourage you to visit our customer success story page to learn more about how our customers like you have dealt with challenges in this space and really strengthened their resilience. So with that, we hope you enjoyed the presentation and we look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.